Hello everybody, welcome to the artclasses.com critique and paint over for Patreon. So this video is going to be a critique and paint over for my Patreon. Every month I will pick two artwork from my Patreon that's posted on the Patreon page. If you are my Patreon from level 1 to level 5, you are eligible to post your artwork, and then I'll just randomly pick one and do a paint over. So in this one here, this is from my Patreon on the community page, and if you are one of my Patreon, feel free to post your artwork, either drawing, painting, or whatever. I'll just do a critique, draw over, and paint over. I haven't seen that much drawing. If you do a drawing or sketch, feel free to post also. It doesn't have to be a painting. So in here, I think he was trying to do portrait, and then also the material study, which is cloth and metal. So first, nice try, but your lighting is everywhere, so you don't have like a unified lighting. Like on top of the hair, just way too light. It should gradually fade into dark, right? So first you need to set up your lighting by using a sphere or something to help you read. This light sphere would help you set up a more accurate depiction of light, because this is going to be the lightest part around this area, right? So you see, okay, that part will be light, and then it's gradually will get dark. But before you doing the unified light, you probably should set up the plane on the face first. So setting up as a plane, then you gradually apply the lighting on top, right? So it's going to get darker gradually on that side. Then eventually, and on the clothing, the lighting is not at the right location. So I can see you trying to put the lighter part on top of the chest here, but if the lights come and hit here, you're going to have cast shadow here, but then most of it just going to be bright. But then I didn't have the hair come over, so I don't need a cast shadow, so it's going to be bright in this area. You need to simplify a lot more and be more confident about your lighting. So let's get started. So all my Patreon will get, if you post an artwork, you get a critique and paint over. And Patreon this month, on level 1, you get a portrait drawing, basic. And level 2, you get perspective. This is part 2. You last term 12, you already get part 1. Part 2 is going to be 2 and 3 points and 3 different POV. So if you don't know POV is point of view, and it's really important in building an environment concept art. So other than that, you get this drawing tutorial, this one, that one. Each one is about 45 minutes long. Like, it's basically from the live stream, because you guys requested that I put on Patreon, so now I'm just going to put them all into the Patreon. Not all, but just selected one that I make them look a little nicer. And level 3, you get, on top of all those, you get this painting video tutorial of Chun-Li. Level 4, you get more again, and the rest of what I just told you. And then level 5, you get all that, including this character design here, and Lancelot and Guinevere. Alright guys, usually I'll spend about 20 to 30 minutes to paint over, so it's not going to be super pretty. Just gonna get right to the point and fix the problems at hand. If you want a masterpiece, probably gonna take longer. So I'm just gonna try to fix it. So like I said, setting up the sphere of light there, so you have some idea of where to put the light to the overall image and the shadow, right? And then you the idea is to know where the lightest part of the object should be and where the darkest part of the object should be. So I try to do the overlay here, but it doesn't really, you can't really see the light in the dark because the color wasn't flat. If the color was flat, you probably see it a little better, but it doesn't really work here. But I can see you kind of have that a little bit on the face there, but it's just not strong enough. So that's the idea, the overall, like trying to get the overall lighting for this image. So I'm just gonna pick 3 values from the face. Gonna pick the light first. Then I'm gonna pick medium. The light would be 85. Medium should be a little bit darker, 75, and a little high, a little more saturated. As it go darker, usually we'll have to go more saturated, and you can go toward the warmer a little bit. Like if you're on more to yellow, then go toward red. Then this is the dark one, which is 67. And if you notice, the skin tone that I picked here, they are only 10% apart. Now I'm just going to pick the occlusion shadow, which is the darker shadow, which is 49, which is that one that I just picked. And now I'm just going to pick the lip color, which is going to be pink. Pick the darker one first, and then the lighter one, which is less saturated. So now we have a lighter top, the upper lips and the lower lip. Upper lip usually will cast a shadow, and the lower lip will be the lighter part, because the upper lip facing down, the plane face down, and the lower lip, the plane facing up. Alright, which I'll explain along in this. So now I'm just going to create the wait, before I make the base color, I should make the measurement. So I'm going to try to measure. Your head look a little way too tall, especially on the hair. That's a lot of hair. So on the eye line to the chin, eye line should be in the middle of your skull. So, and then if I measure the eye to the bottom of the chin, then measure it up, that should be about the height of your head. So your head is way too tall. Even if your hair is thick, it shouldn't be that much thicker, unless, well, if you're in the 80s, your hair is probably about right. But I'm just gonna make it accurate first. We will worry about the afro, or the afro would be really high, or if you do the hairstyle like 80, the big hair, then it will go really high. So it's probably go about as high as what you have there. But right now I just want everything to be in the right proportion, so I'm just gonna put it back to the place. So eye line will be about a half. So now, and then we're gonna try to measure the width of the head. So on the shoulder, on male, usually the shoulder, one side of the shoulder will equal the width of the head, most likely. On the female, it will be a little less if you want them to look a little more feminine. So you measure the width of the head, and then I make it into 3 parts. So the width of the whole shoulder should be about 3 head wide. And if it is female and you want to make it a little bit more feminine and make it look a little younger, not like you're not a warrior type. If you're making the Red Sonja, you might want it to be the shoulder to be broad. But if you want to make a fragile princess or something, more feminine would be, you know, a little less. The frame would be skinnier or thinner than the male counterpart, and that just basic anatomy. No, I didn't make that up. So, all right. So now we shrink the shoulder a bit, making the head in the right proportion. Now, and if you want to know about the plane of the face and all that, you can look at my beginner's package. It will explain everything in detail. From, I think that's chapter 1 and 2. No, it's chapter 2 and 3 or 4. Yeah. All right. So the nose, usually it would be halfway between your eye line and the bottom of the chin, and the lips would be above the halfway. So it would be halfway between the nose and the chin, but usually we like to put it a little higher. But halfway is a pretty good distance to go. You can go about halfway or higher. You cannot go lower, because that's going to pass your mandible, and it's not possible. So I'm going to move the eye down a little bit. So now we got the proportion there. That would be the most likely the more correct proportion. So now I am painting the lightest color there, just to make the plane, and then the second will be the side plane, the third will be the down plane. So in the eye socket, I'm just going to use the dark one right off the bat, because your eye socket have the plane that facing down. Tip of your nose has a plane that facing downward. Upper lips have the plane that facing downward, and below your lower lips will have the plane that facing downward also. And now on the side of the face, I will use the mid-tone, which is around your below your cheekbones on your side, that you have that plane that going down. So now it looked like a pretty rough sculpture of the face, and that's where you want to start off with in the regular portrait training. And then I kind of forgot the side plane of the nose, which the side plane of the nose we use pretty much the similar value or the same value as a side plane of the face. So, and now on the hair, you have way too many values. It's too confusing. Start off with the simple. So I'm just going to use same as the skin. I'll have 3-tone, light, mid, and dark. And the lights kind of go a little too light, too bright there, so I tone it down a bit on the saturation range. And now I'm just going to use the mid-tone or a darker tone to put it to kind of getting the base color down. I don't want it to be too bright. I would save the bright color for the highlight. I want it to be a little more subdued. So there, let's frame the face with the hair, because you don't want anything to be too bright right off the bat. Just kind of play around with the mid-tone and increasing the light and the dark. And now I'm adding the darker value inside the neck. That would be where the area of the hair that the light couldn't really get in there. And then on her neck, I use the mid-tone because the light couldn't really get there. But the lower part of the neck, the light could. You have the cast shadow from the chin and the area on the upper side of the neck, top part of the neck, it won't really get the light, so it will be slightly darker. Now I'm cleaning up her top part a little bit, and let's see. Okay. Oh, now I'm going to add the side plane for the nose right there, and I should add, I also forgot to add the so now after all those planes, and now I'm just going to show you what we are about to do. So we are about to render this face, right? So once you make those simple sculpture of the head, now you're going to try to make it fit the lighting, or the lighting will come from the top and act as it go to the, I can't think of the word, sorry, as it go to the, like, follow the bulb sphere and using the light and shadow that are on there. So the lighting will be coming from the top, middle, a little bit off to the right side of the screen. It doesn't come from the right, it's coming from the front still, but it's a little bit off to the right side of the screen. So and now I'm using multiply a little bit, soft brush, and adding a little bit darker value onto the facial structure. And just on the bottom left side of the screen, getting a little bit confused on the direction there. So the bottom could be darker. You get really confused, you could go look at my other one, other facial paint over one. So it's kind of similar. Now the top part of the lips will be darker, the light part will be lighter. Because the top part of your lip is basically, that plane is facing downward, and the lower lips is basically facing upward. Follow the plane, and your painting will be fine. Now I'm adding a darkest value, or like occlusion, or the dark value that you can use for like eyebrow, eyelash, or something like that. It can also use as an occlusion shadow to be the darkest one. So now I'm just going to add a facial feature. It's just going to be really quick here. Just going to try to set up. And usually on the white of the eyes, I usually pick either the lighter part of the skin and then desaturate it, and then you get the white of the eye. Don't pick white, because it's not white. It's off-white. You can pick the skin tone, desaturate it, and then you're going to have the color of the eye. Especially You pick the color around the area, or the lightest part of the skin tone. Usually works out well. Now I'm trying to make the nose red, but I guess not sure if I want to use multiply. Well, let's use normal. Just paint regularly. You can use multiply to add a little red on the nose. It would make your process faster, but now I'm just gonna try to use more normal. Oh, that doesn't go red. Maybe a little. Just gonna pick the value, the color from the nose there. Use a regular color there. Then I'll push it to the red side. So I'm just gonna clean up this nose first, and I'm pushing it to red, more saturated, and darken up a little bit. So there, add the red there. So you can just pick the same color palette there, right? But then you move your hue toward the red, and then you can keep your value within that area. So, but you can just shift the hue and shift the saturation, and then your value and your the same value and will remain there. But it just, the hue just shift, so it shift toward the red. That works the same way. And if you want to use multiply on top, then you can use that also. There's many ways to, many way to skin the cat. That's how they say it. Or as long as you get the good result, then that's good. And on the side of the nose, I'm gonna create. I forgot to add the plane on that side there, on the nose bridge, which usually have a really hard shadow. And now you can see all the plane with the hard edge. Now we're going to go in and try to apply some soft edge and then highlight and all that. I'm going to add some hair, but I don't think we're there yet. I think I tried to add some fancy hair too soon, so I'm just going to get rid of them. I'm going to make the hair lower. The forehead should be, gonna make it a little bit bigger there. Making the occlusion shadow. Yeah, if you're interested in getting a critique and paint over, then go to my Patreon. Just click on the top right icon, or you can go down to the description of the video. There should be a link, but the top right corner you get to the same location, or patreon.com/Xia Taptara. And don't forget to go watch my live stream. My live stream usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12 p.m. Or noon Pacific Standard Time, and Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the live stream also powered by Patreon. So you get the live stream and you get the paint over, and then you get, if you are level 5, you get about 6 video. If you level 2, you get about 2-3 video. But now I'm trying to change it, and maybe we can focus on drawing a lot, so you might get more video, like a bunch of drawing video on level 2. Level 3 is going to be more focused on painting, basically. So at this point, I'm just trying to, going in and beautify her a little bit. But basically, the plane and the value are all there. So at this point, I'm just trying to moving around with the detail and changing the hairstyle, or trying to make her look good. But I don't think we'll have enough time, but we'll see, because I'm gonna have to fix the shoulder and the coat. So for the face, I'm just gonna end it there. I might come back to it later, but basically that's the foundation of the face, painting the portrait. Now we are going to paint her clothing. Fabric, well, when you study material, you know that fabric is absorb the light better than metal. Metal will bounce the light off, so they have a really what do you call that, high forgot the word, specular level. So you see objects that have high specular level will have a lot of contrast, like it will go to really bright and really dark within the same. So if you see I'm making a sample palette here for the metal, you have 4 level of value range. It could go up to 5. On fabric, usually if it's not a special fabric, if it's like cotton or wool or something, usually you can get away with 2 to 3 value. And now I'm just going to use 2 for the light and the dark, and that's it. And in between transition, you can create more value range, but the majority of them is just going to be 2, the light and the dark. And you can like see a little bit of here, it will be like in between. But try to use only light and the dark for now, and then you can use some other additional value later. But first you got to separate the light and shadow, and then you can go paint in the light using the light value that are lighter than the shadow, and within the shadow you got to use the value that stay within the shadow value range. So now on top of the chest will be using the lighter dark and the darker side of this base, a darker base, and maybe some shadow on the side, and the shadow on from the shoulder, from the back, a little bit of shadow, and shadow always connected. So if you see all those shadow lines, they are connected. They're not so for the consistency, because the shadow line will not just like, okay, if you go on to the light will go onto the light fabric and pass through the dark fabric, it will be the same light. It's not a different light. And now for that yellow, it's inconsistent, so I'm just going to pick the light and the dark yellow. The light will stay on the lighter plane, and the dark will go on the darker plane. There. So now you can see the difference between the plane, right? For the and that's what you want to get in the beginning for the painting, and then you can go in and try to add more detail later. If you want to know more about this, then you can go download my tutorial on my Gumroad, or you can just become my patron. You get tutorial every month. And on the shoulder, metal shoulder pad here, I'm going to render. I set up the light and the dark in the basic form first, and now I'm trying to add more plane to the shoulder, so that are the plane that facing up, or the lip of, or the bottom end of the shoulder pad, and then just the sphere there. But it's not really a sphere. It's like the top is curved, but when it's coming down to the front, it's a little more straight and wider, facing front a little more, because if it's curved in, then your arm wouldn't be able to move as good, because it's gonna you don't want it to taper in, you want it to be an open space, so your arm can have more movement and lift it up. So a quarter sphere here, I'm using a soft brush to get the transition in between the light and dark better. And if you notice, the value range of the metal is a lot more. So now if you look at the shoulder pad on a side view, that's what it looks like. So you have one plane that light come in an angle, and then that bottom part is facing top, and that angle, so the one that received the light the most can be that area that I draw there, rectangular, and then it's going to come straight down below that, and then you're going to have another plane that facing up, which is going to receive the similar value to the angle on the top corner. Alright, so now once I have all this set up, then I'm just gonna clean this up and make transition. So usually I will start off with the harder edge, and I will go in and try to use soft brush and making transition. And then there, make it a little softer so I make it look round. But then I like to leave the harder edge to kind of leave it some painterly stroke. But if you like something that look a little more airbrushy or smoother, or look like digital painting, then you have to clean them up a little more. But I like my stuff scribbly. and then the top edge probably have some highlight there also. All right, then you might have a little bit of a rim light or the bounce light, and then I'm just gonna add some texture. Well, let's not use texture because it might confuse you guys. And so far I haven't used any fancy brush yet. I just use pretty much default regular brush. So you, like I always recommend, I will often get a lot of question on what brush do I use. It's kind of like when I'm drawing, I'll get a lot of question from especially artists that just begin to draw, and they're like, what kind of pencil do I use? Same thing, pencil or brushes, it just, well, use whatever you like. I use 2B pencil and brush, master the default first. I change my brush a lot of time, and you can download my brush set on my website. It's not gonna, it's the custom brush gonna confuse you even more, and it's harder to use than the default brush. So first, master the foundation, value, and all that. Go download my video on Gumroad. It will help you really. A lot of beginners package, especially, it will really help you on drawing and setting up the painting, and how to find the plane, and how to set up your value, material study, painting hair, painting face, all those kind of stuff that either you're beginner or you've been painting for a while but you don't really know what the hell you're doing, you just be able to render. That's going to help you also. Seriously, these are really important. All the foundation stuff are super important. It's not the brush. It just, you have to know how to lay out your value and how to set them up. So now basically I'm done with the shoulder. Talking off the topic for a little bit. I'm just going to clean up the face a little bit since we have a little bit of time left. Just gonna make her look a little bit more edgy, give her some emotion, because she look bored, like what the hell. Now I'm just gonna moving things around a little bit. So basically, once you get everything into the right spot, sometimes it look a little too mundane or too generic. Then this is as you get better in painting, it's gonna take a little bit of like refinement or subtlety to shifting around, like what I'm doing here, just moving things around, increase the value and trying to find the harder edge, moving the nose in, moving the edge outside, and trying to find moving the shape, like changing the facial feature basically. And you're changing the facial feature by moving around the hard edge and moving around the object. And sometimes you need a slightly bigger eye, sometimes you need slightly wider or slimmer nose, or taller nose, or higher nose bridge, or lower the nose bridge a little bit. And this will all have to do with value and edges. So when you move your edges, you will have a lot of it will move your like, well, I'm kind of lost my train of thought here. Moving your chin up a little bit. So, but anyways, you get the point. Just kind of lost my train of thought there a little bit there. Like when you move when you move a section around, like the corner of the lips, or make it thinner or make it thicker, it will change your facial feature basically. So that's what I'm kind of doing now. But I don't have a lot of time here, and this has been over 20 minutes and running out of gas. So I think I'm just gonna call it here. And if you're on my Patreon, you get the PSD file, and you'll be able to download this file also. But for now, I'm just gonna end it here. I gotta correct the neck a little bit there. Adding some, maybe adding some highlight on the hair. So I could keep painting forever, but talking wise, sometimes I run out of things to talk about. But if you have specific questions, then I usually be able to answer them. And just at this point, it's just taking a more subtlety approach. Cast shadow you need to add, and you have to think about how the hair will fall off, and would it cast a shadow or anything like that. So alright, and maybe refine the lips a little bit, adding the teeth. And refine the chin a little bit. Alright, I think we're done here. So, okay, yeah, if you wanna join my Patreon, you get a bunch of videos to download, and you can go also find single download on my Gumroad. And you want to take classes, feel free, just click on the top right, or go down below on the video description, then you find the link to those Gumroad, Patreon, or my website, theartclasses.com. Then you find the class. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope this video is helpful, and I will see you on the live stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.